I'm Pamela Wu, and with me today, 6 feet away, maybe a little more than 6 feet, is Dr. Megan Tudor, a licensed psychologist with the UC Davis Mind Institute and an assistant clinical professor of pediatrics. Today we're going to be discussing practical strategies for helping children in this period of self-isolation and no school during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've already received several questions via our social media channels. Dr. Tudor, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I think this is a really important topic. We're going through a really difficult time right now.
So difficult.
Yeah, people were not prepared for. How could we have been, right?
Yes.
And parents and children are facing some really unique challenges through all of this. So I hope our discussion can help bring some new ideas to the table for dealing with that. I also would like to give a shout out to Brianna Winder Patel, the psychologist that I work with at the Mind Institute. We usually like to do all these things together, but for obvious reasons.
Social distancing, fewer people in the
room.
There's
just doing one at a time for these right now.
Yes, and we really enjoyed having her in one of our previous Facebook Live broadcasts. So glad that you're with us too. I think a lot of parents are going to benefit from your advice. What would you consider to be the primary challenges right now being faced by parents during this shelter in place?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, right?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of thinking of it along the lines of regular vacations or school breaks, like spring break. At first, it's super fun, it's relaxing, kids are excited to be out of school, but pretty soon that honeymoon phase fades away, and now family members are getting irritated with each other.
Yeah.
You know, siblings are spending a lot of time together. They start missing their friends and school and their activities. So it's a lot of that happening, but without that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Right, like what's the end point?
Right, exactly. And especially now that we just had the announcement that school is out for the rest of this year. Now we know this is long term, so it's all those kind of struggles, but like times a billion, really, with also parents having to work at home and now also expected to teach their children in the home environment, which is very different for everyone.
And the challenges, too, are different for different families. Everyone's family dynamic is different. As you mentioned, you have parents who might be really crazy busy at work, at home,
Yes.
or parents who are newly unemployed.
Yes.
Just the same, you might have families who have typically developing kids with neurodevelopmental disorders like autism, which is one of your areas of specialty.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all facing different challenges family to family, and of course families that are affected by autism or other neurodevelopmental differences. Some of these challenges, are even harder than what everyone else is experiencing.
A lot of the experts that we've talked to during our Facebook Live broadcasts have talked about the importance of routine.
Yes.
What are your strategies for setting a routine?
Right. I think parents are hearing this a lot, and we can't say it enough, really.
Yeah.
And this goes for typically developing children and children with autism and developmental differences. So let me talk about some of the components of a good routine that I've been seeing come up with my patients and the families I work with. So if I just show, just an example of part of a daily routine, we see that there are time points throughout the routine. And I bring this up because I've worked with some families that are making to-do lists for the day, but actually having set periods of time for your different activities is really helpful because when we have that, now we don't have room for negotiation, of how long we're going to be doing a particular activity or getting stuck in one particular area. And we're also just making life more predictable and a little more certain, which it's not right now, right?
Yeah,
so
the structure seems to be important. Can you
It
run
does.
through some of those things there as examples?
Sure. So some examples here are getting dressed, and this is an important part too. We're still getting dressed for the day. It's not a jammy day every day.
Day jams and night jams, that's all jams, people.
Right. We're trying to help kids still get in the groove of, being productive during the day, having breakfast. I have a school period here at 9 a.m. for 2 hours, but an important component here is that even though a structure like this might seem kind of rigid and exact, there can also be choices
within
that block? Within those blocks. And that's really important because humans like choices, right?
Yeah.
We respond well to having options, not too many, but if we have 2 or 3 pre-selected things, so here I have something like math or science worksheets, and then something that's not even, what we think of as typical school, but it's still learning baking or laundry, you know. So giving some choices and being flexible in what kind of things we're thinking of as learning, because doing these daily household tasks or learning something new at home, that's still learning, that's still growing, even if it's not what we think of as, typical school, and then of course having breaks for that physical activity. This is a really important part of the daily routine. We need to get that energy out, we need to keep exercising, and we also want to have different choices there. The ones I included here, doing Just Dance 2020, the video game, or bike riding, right? And we can have different choices every day, but having some options about what it's going to look like will get some more buy-in from the kids, especially when they don't want to do some of those things we're asking them to do.
You mentioned buy-in, and that actually leads to my next question. Would you advise families to invite children to take part in the creation of the schedule?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. Making lists of different things that they would look forward to doing. What are some of their preferences in this? That's a big part of buy-in, right? Is we get to have a voice and we're collaborating in this together.
Yeah, so you've got a little skin in the game.
Yes.
You mentioned that Governor Newsom did announce that the school year is not going to resume on physical campuses for the rest of the academic year. A lot of parents are doing instruction at home. And also, the schools are going to be providing online learning very soon as well. Either way, what are your recommendations for creating a constructive learning environment at home, right? Not just like, well, here's the kitchen table, kid, go for it.
Right. And so the number one thing we want to do is have a dedicated space that is just for doing schoolwork. And that will be very different for every family. I drew out just like a 2-bedroom apartment layout.
A floor plan.
Right, a little floor plan. And for this particular family, this chair at this table, that's going to be the workspace. And the reason this is so important is because kids are used to going to school where everything is school, right? They're associated with learning, everything that's happening at school. Now we need to make a part of the house dedicated to that. We don't want the whole house to feel like that because it still needs to feel like home. It still needs to feel relaxing and that we can have fun there. But we want to help kids, their minds and their bodies get in the groove of, okay, this is the workspace, this is where all my school stuff is kept. Tomorrow morning I'm going to be back there again to do the part of the learning that I have for that day. And along those same lines, this is why the jammy jams all day is not, not necessarily helpful. We want kids to get dressed like they're going to school, just getting everything in the groove of going to school. And this isn't going to be easy at first. This is a big transition. It's going to take time. And I think it's important for parents to take it easy on themselves in this regard, because a lot of parents aren't trained to be teachers.
Absolutely.
And it's okay if we're taking this gradually. If this is a really big and difficult transition, we might need to fade in short periods of the school day over a course of time, rather than feeling like you're creating a whole 8-hour school day for your child.
Right, because I mean it's a pretty unreasonable expectation, right? And I think parents are putting a lot of pressure on themselves.
They are, right? They totally are, and that's why I think it's so important that we consider all these other ways that we can teach children at home as well. Back to the laundry or making your own lunch.
Sure, practical things, chores. Chores are on my schedule.
Oh, good.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah, we want those practical things on there, and we even can think of things that are new that might not necessarily seem like school, but even making a video with Legos.
Oh,
the child's never done that before. We're learning something new. How about that? How that works, So we can get creative about what learning means during this time as well.
That's such a great idea. Learning in all different forms is still learning.
It is.
Some kids are having emotional trouble coping with the disruption in routine. Those who spend a lot of time outside doing sports or who really miss their friends a lot. What do you recommend to parents in terms of helping their kids cope with it and sort of talking through it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's, we think of being out of school as being positive, but for a lot of kids, this is really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. They're not getting to finish their school years, and so for some of them that's really important, like their senior year of high school, and things like that. So we want to talk about what children are going through. We want to talk about their feelings and help them label them and talk through them. And so I'll talk about 2 strategies that we use in cognitive behavioral therapy that I think could cross over really well
Okay.
to home environments right now. So one is called the feelings thermometer. Now this is a classic, right? So here's our classic picture of a thermometer, and we're using this to label different intensities. So let's see if I just make this a 5-point scale of how intense our emotions are feeling, right? So
Right.
a 1 might be, I'm a little tiny bit aggravated right now, versus 5 is, whoa,
Off
we're-
the charts,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're off the charts, right? Just like we're thinking about measuring heat in a thermometer,
Right.
and helping work with kids to label what these feel like for them, whether that's anger or anxiety.
Yeah.
We find children have very creative and interesting language,
Yes,
about
yes.
these things. So we want them to be part of it. Again, like you brought up earlier, collaborate, be part of it. How are we labeling these things and talking about them? Again, with so many things we're talking about, this can get really creative, right? So here's an example.
Oh, it's Pikachu.
It's Pikachu, right? So if your
My
child...
kid would be so into this.
Oh, okay, there you go. There you go. So if your child really loves Pokemon, instead of using that classic feelings thermometer, we might be able to make something with Pikachu. Pikachu's a little bit worried and scared right
He
here.
is concerned.
He's concerned. That's
Yeah,
a great word
he's
for
concerned.
it. He's concerned. Now he's getting a little more afraid, and now he's losing it. Yeah. So we don't even need numbers. We can even just use pictures for kids to point to. We
Right.
just want to help them see, how are they feeling? How intense is this? Because right now when stress is running high, it can feel like 0 to 100
Yeah.
in no time. It just feels like all or nothing. We want to help kids see that there is variation in how they feel. And depending on how they feel, we can react differently. So if we're at a 2 and we go take a walk, maybe we're going to get back down to a 1 again. And so now children are learning, oh, I can do things to make me feel better.
they feel
I can
empowered.
make choices.
Yes.
Exactly. It's all back to that some feeling of control in
Yeah.
this very out of control situation. I brought one more example just to show how individualized it can be. This was for a child that loves bacon, right? Bacon was his favorite
Yes.
food. And the language he liked to use around this was, at 1, he's just perfectly
Oh,
crisp.
he's just right.
That's right. But when we get up to 5,
It's even incinerated bacon.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
and it's not tasty anymore, right?
Right, right.
And so families can even have their own kind of language of, like, ooh, I think the bacon's getting a little bit too toasty right now.
Yeah.
Should we go take a break? Helping children see what that process is feeling like for
I'll
them.
hold that up for
Oh,
the
yeah,
camera.
sorry. Yeah, when they may not be very aware of all of that happening from day to day.
This makes so much sense because sometimes children, especially young children, don't have the vocabulary to articulate how they're feeling.
Yes, absolutely. And so then it's our job as adults to kind of help reflect how they're feeling to them. Oh,
Right.
it seems like you're feeling this way, and these kind of
It's
tools,
a tool, yeah.
they can help bring the child into that. And then one other idea that I think is particularly relevant right now is this idea of certainty. Things aren't feeling certain.
Yeah.
So this is a worksheet that I made where we're comparing things that are for sure or certain. We can use different language around this, and we don't know right now. And the reason I bring this up is because kids are asking a lot of questions that we don't know the answers to. And I want parents to know it's okay to say I don't know. It's
Yeah.
okay not to have those answers right now. When we are practicing, putting something in this bubble of we don't know right now, really we're practicing being resilient. We're accepting that we don't have all the answers, we are uncertain. We can still have a great day today. We're practicing really
Yeah.
emotion regulation by doing that.
So you're suggesting writing notes inside?
Yes,
the
yes. Yeah, so
bubbles,
going through
clouds?
Yeah, I just drew little clouds. It can be
Okay,
anything.
it's cute. You drew this. It's adorable.
Right.
Okay.
The first cloud is like, yeah, we know for sure.
We
the
know
next
this.
cloud, we don't know.
We don't know.
And
Yeah.
so we might go through the kinds of questions, especially if we're getting repetitive questions from our kids, of which ones do we know for sure, like we're going to eat dinner together tonight.
Right.
We're making pizza,
Right.
something like that, versus when am I going to see my friend again in person? We don't know for sure right now. We don't know yet, and that's
Yeah.
okay. We will know. Every day we know more. Right now, let's focus on what we do know for sure, what we can control right now.
I like this. This provides certainty in a larger sense too, because you can be certain of what you don't know, and that in itself is an answer.
Yes, that in itself is some control.
That is fantastic. These are such great tools. We talked about kids wanting to see their friends. You just said, we don't know when you're going
Yeah.
to see your friends again. What are your recommendations for helping families stay socially connected in this during our shelter in place, especially kids?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of a shame that it's been called social distancing.
Right, I'm starting to try to call it physical distancing.
Yes, exactly, because it's not about being socially disconnected, it's just about physical distance,
Yes.
exactly. So, the two things that come to mind, we have old school ways of doing this, and then we have some new technological ways of doing this too. So in terms of old school, a lot of people are getting back into the snail mail right now, writing letters, drawing pictures for their friends, writing cards for their teachers that they miss, making little care packages, friendship bracelets. These are all ways of showing how much you care about someone, that you miss someone, even when you can't be right next to them.
Yeah.
So I really encourage parents to go down that road. It can be fun. It can be one of your activities that's on your daily schedule. And then in terms of where we are now in 2020, and we can actually see people face to face using our phones and our iPads, I highly recommend the virtual play date, and trying to do that at least once a week. Having that face-to-face time. It's not really face-to-face. That's screen-to-screen, face-to-face time can be really important. And we're figuring out all kinds of creative ways to do that. So it's not just, go call your friend, the end, right? We can actually make activities that work over FaceTime. So board games like Battleship and Guess Who actually work really well over the FaceTime format.
Where you've got the two players on either side,
Yep.
and
you
you
have
can
your
do it
own
together.
boards. As long as you both have a set at home, that can work out really well. Doing things like the show and tell, right? So you're gonna call your friend and you're gonna show them 3 things in your room. They're gonna show you 3 things in their room, and you can ask questions about it. The dance party over FaceTime.
Oh my gosh, what a great idea.
Teaching each other a new move when they call. It's just, there's lots of new ways we can connect over FaceTime that we haven't really thought of before. And I think it's important because, especially when I'm thinking about children with autism, you might have some kids that are like, oh, nah, they just may not prefer that activity, but this is still really important time to still have those social connections and find ways to, even if they're brief, find ways, even 10 minutes, to be interacting with a peer on a regular basis.
Bonus, it's very entertaining for parents, as I've learned, to eavesdrop on a children's conference call as well.
Oh yes, very interesting.
You learn a lot about your kid that way.
Yeah. I think one of my favorites I've heard of were 2 kids making their pets talk to each other.
Oh my gosh.
Like the cat in a cat voice and the dog in their dog voice.
I'm writing this down. Pet virtual play date. I'm in. Okay, these are really, really great practical strategies, because it is more. I love that it's more detailed, your advice, than just saying, well, just give your friend a call.
Right.
Yeah, you got to give them ideas to get started.
We got to get it rolling and make it feel enjoyable in some way.
Yeah, great. It's been really hard to relax during this very challenging time. We talked about that, because of new stresses, because of the virus, because of being inside all the time. How important is relaxation right now, though? Like, how important is it to make it a priority?
It is important. It is really important. And like a lot of the other things we've been talking about today, even if it's brief, it is important. And I especially say this to the parents, and for them to have some relaxation time, because we know parent mental health is child mental health, right? On the airplane, they say you put your oxygen on first so you can take care of your child. This is no different, right? So parents do need to have some time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, some period of time where they can do something enjoyable and feel some sense of peace, and again, that control in their day. This can be very, very different for every parent. That could be the baking again. It could be, I've heard, organizing cupboards, for some. Not me.
Is relax? No, nor I. Relaxing. I've done the stress baking, though.
Stress baking for sure. Going and taking a longer shower, even, adding a few minutes to the shower, buying a special soap next time you go to the grocery store.
It feels like a treat.
It feels like a treat, exactly. Listening to, the Backstreet Boys, or, something, an enjoyable, something from your youth, that just makes you nostalgic. Just feels good. Just something to just give a little peace and break to the day that otherwise is feeling so high intensity negative a lot of the times right now. That that bleeds over into parenting, and kids are sponges, they're
Yeah.
soaking up everything that's going on right now. They're picking up on everything. So we want to show them, even when we're stressed, very understandably stressed, even when that's happening, we're taking even little steps to try to feel better. So it's very different for a child to hear over and over, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed,
Yeah.
versus I'm so stressed, I'm going to go listen to 2 songs
Right.
with my earbuds in, and then I'll be back. Because now you're showing your child you can make a choice that helps you feel a little bit better, and that's modeling emotional regulation for children.
These are really great tips. Like you said, just sort of building in, even to things you're already doing, like taking a shower,
Yes.
is just building in a little bit of relaxation and time for you during those tasks. More recommendations? What else do you suggest for people who, need a little bit more support for their mental health at this time?
Yeah. So, and mental health just keeps coming up right now. Like this is a big topic right
Yeah.
now, because a lot of the things we usually do for our mental health are not available.
They're not available to
Yeah,
us.
they're just not available to us right now. So, the big things that we want to keep in mind is, number one, we're taking all of this day by day, one day at a time. This is a classic old saying. It rings very true right now.
Yeah,
Just
one day at a
right
time.
now. Yeah, one day at a time. What can you control today? One great idea that one of the families I work with had was creating what's today's missions. They thought of this while watching Star Wars.
Yes, there's Baby Yoda,
Right.
the best.
Right, and I get a lot of my strategies from the families I work with who get really creative. Yeah, so we've got Baby Yoda there. Baby Yoda's giving you the missions for this particular worksheet. It could be anyone, right? And number one, I'm going to write it right now, which would be a great one for a lot of families, is stay home, right? And I write
Yes.
this because we're doing this.
Yes.
And now when you're putting something on this list, now you feel like you're rocking it, right? Like,
Right.
Now you feel like you're doing a
It's
good job.
affirming.
It is affirming.
Yeah.
You're doing what you need to do right now. Boom. We are staying home.
Yes, yes.
We completed that mission
Done.
today. Yeah, exactly. So we're finding what are the things that you can do on a day-to-day basis. What's achievable? What's going to make you feel like I am doing a good job? Because
Yeah.
it's easy right now to fall into a loop of feeling like you're not doing a good job, even
Yeah.
though people are actually doing amazing at really keeping it together despite the circumstances right now. So I think that's really important for mental health. But I think we also need to keep in mind that the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has hotlines for all the difficult things that are going on right now. So there is a disaster distress hotline, and of course the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And I think it's important for families to know and keep in mind that those resources are available
Yeah.
to them, because sometimes all these things that we're talking about can get to a level where we need outside support,
Right.
for sure. And the other thing that comes to mind is, I'm just focusing a lot on the day to day and just seeing what you can control right now. But also, I think it's helpful for parents to think about, what about when all this is over, when this is all a thing of the past, like as soon as possible,
Please.
as soon as possible. When this is all a thing of the past, how is your family going to be able to look back and have some positive memories right now, even though it doesn't feel like a positive time?
Yes.
Right? I just made, this is just a little scrapbook based on things happening in my own house, right? Right.
Okay.
So we brought out the old badminton set and are hitting, the birdie around. And remember how, I'm just making up families here,
Sure.
but remember how Bobby hit that really hard one that one time and we had to go get it over the fence. How we had the birthday party, even though it was really different from our usual birthday parties, that we had a fun time, that we watched an old classic TV show.
The Twilight Zone.
My favorite's The Twilight Zone,
Yes.
And we probably wouldn't have done that if this hadn't happened.
Yeah.
That we made that Lego movie together that all our friends liked when we sent it to them. These are all things that are out of the ordinary, possibly of our normal lives.
Yeah.
But we can still hopefully look back at this time and say, we did have some good memories together. Our kids were still growing and learning, and we were still bonding together, even though it was not what we expected and it was more stressful than usual.
Because you're making memories
Yeah.
at the same time.
We are, yeah.
For families with autism, which is one of your areas of expertise, this happens to be World Autism Awareness Day.
Yes.
What does this day mean to you this year in this context?
Yeah, it's very different this year, like everything.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing it brings up to me is this is a time where we need to make sure everyone in our community is taken care of, and that includes people with autism and other neurodevelopmental differences. How, even if we're physically distancing, how can we keep coming together as a community, whether that's social media, whether it's pulling together more resources, doing events like this, giving more support to these families that need it most. I think that the whole pandemic really brings to light something we already knew, but it makes it even more salient now, is that, supporting the mental health of people with autism is something that we still have to do more work on, right? We've come a long, long way, over the past few decades, going from just awareness to now in 2020, we're at a place of celebrating these differences. Neurodiversity has made great strides, that movement of seeing all these differences as positives, and that people with autism are thriving not despite their autism, but that's part of them. That's an important
It's who they
part.
are.
Yeah, it's an important part of them, and our world is better for it. So it's an amazing time to see how far we've come. But one area where there's a lot more work to do is making sure there's more providers that are available to support people with autism when they have anxiety, depression, all these things that come about, very commonly, and in a situation like this that we're going through now, even more so. So I'm glad at Mind to be part of research and training that is hopefully, in the years to come, we'll see even more movement in that direction.
And we also have questions that were submitted by our social media followers in the past few days. Some of them are pretty personal. You can tell that people are really, really seeking guidance here. So here we go. My daughter, age 7.5, this question says, is very negative about anything to do with learning at home. So far, she has refused any suggested activities and says that school stuff is for school, not for home. Given that our district is going to start distance learning the Monday after spring break, I am concerned about actually finding a way to get her interested in participating. What is your advice?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that we already talked about today, I hope will be helpful in terms of the structure, the routine, the choices, the flexibility in what we're thinking of as exactly learning. This might be a child where we're really going to be fading in gradually with, okay, our homeschool time, we're going to do baking or we're going to do gardening. So it might feel different. We might want to help that child feel like, oh, okay, maybe some things will be a little bit different, and then we can start easing into more of the structured school things. I don't know if this child has autism or not, but I know for a lot of the children with autism we work with, if we kind of set things up as this is just the new rule, this is how school is going to work for this period of time. Your teacher wrote me a letter, we have the support of the school, this is how everyone's doing it. Sometimes that can help them get more on board.
Legitimizing it.
Right, and giving more of the routine to it, and that it's just part of life now can be helpful. And I also would say, I would not shy away from using rewards at a time like this, right? It can be a little bit harder because you can't go out as much, it's for rewards, but we can get creative. And, some parents sometimes feel like, well, it's school, they shouldn't be rewarded for, what they should be doing. But actually, if this is a really big and hard transition, let's go ahead and give some little rewards and earn points, for example, for doing a really special activity after the school part of the day is over. So anything that's going to help set the child up for success and also the parent up for success, so they're not getting in this groove of it being a fight, because this is going to be for a long time. So we want to try to set things up pretty clearly from the beginning to help be successful.
Yeah, and when it's official too, when it's the district actually coordinating this distance learning with the child's own teacher, it might feel different.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's going to really help that transition and children knowing like, oh, this is my teacher's
Yeah,
stuff.
it's for real.
Right. My teacher's going to know if I said no, or
Yes.
things like that. We're hoping that will help ease some of that tension as well. And like I said before, I think it's worth saying again, it's not going to be easy. Yeah, and parents can accept part of that, and every day let's just aim for it getting a little bit better, and it does not need to be perfect right off the bat. That's just not realistic.
How structured should your day look like with children on the spectrum, or can we just go with the flow? This is another one of our viewer questions.
Yeah, so we want it to be quite structured. Yeah, we do. So for typically developing children with autism, we do want that structure in place. Again, this goes back to certainty. We want to make life a little more certain, a little more predictable, have some more control over it, even if that means having choices. Having those choices in there, I think, is really important, but we do, for all children, want to have that structure.
The second part of this question is, how do you best prepare and deal with online therapy sessions?
Yes. So this has been coming up in my life a lot, because now all the therapy I do is online. I will say it takes some getting used to, for sure, on both sides. So I think for preparing children for that, kind of back to what we talked about for school time, we want to have a therapy area, like where do we go do our therapy session? I appreciate when kids are kind of set up in a place that's kind of nice for them to sit in and be able to engage without a lot of other,
stuff.
Yeah, a lot of other stuff around. And we want to make sure children feel like, especially for adolescents and older kids, that this is private. So finding a private area in the house.
Yeah, to respect their privacy.
Totally. They know that their brother isn't listening at the door, things like that. And for some kids with autism, it might also be helpful to even take this to another level of doing a social story, like taking a picture of the therapist on the screen and the picture of the area that it's going to be in, and explaining that it's the same, we're just not leaving the house. We're just going right to the point when we're usually in the therapy room, but we're doing it on our video. And for some families, that might also mean that the parent is more involved in that session. So if I'm in the room with a child, I might be able to say, okay, let's get back over here, right?
Right.
Over the screen, that might not do.
Hey, come back.
Right. Yeah. Where'd you go? I'm just looking at a wall. This has happened. Yeah. Okay. So parents sometimes being in the room and part of the session more than they might be used to, and preparing the child for that. Those are all ways that we can help them get in the groove. This new groove, this new way of life when it comes to the video visits.
Can you talk about the value of telemedicine or video visits? Because so many UC Davis Health providers now are doing that during this period when people need more support. And if you haven't done it yet, I'd like to, sort of hear your perspective on it for those who might be interested in trying it or learning more.
Yes, definitely. I highly recommend, 100%. We are trying as much as possible to accommodate, still giving high quality services, all the services that we provide, even during this pandemic, even over video. And you would be surprised, how much you really can do over the video format. So I definitely think anyone that's interested should reach out and see if their providers, or when their providers can see them. It might even be sooner than they're usually used to now that we're working in this format. And this is especially true for parents and for children, where we don't want to lose time, so to speak, on some of the things that we're working on, behavioral or otherwise. So I definitely would recommend parents looking into it. That's based on my family's experience that I work with, and also my own as a provider.
Yeah, so you can call your primary care provider or what provider it is that you need to see in whatever department, and inquire about video visits.
Definitely.
We do these over our app, My UC Davis Health. Our next question says, I'm interested in creative ideas for virtual play dates and encouraging more physical activity.
Yes, yeah. So I hope some of the ideas I listed earlier could help get some wheels spinning.
Those
about
are
all
great. I'm going to do some of those with my child. Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's really just about how can we find a way that there is a purpose to that phone call, whatever it might be. And I bet I'm going to start hearing a lot of new ideas after we do this too. Some others that I didn't mention before were even, giving drawing prompts or Lego prompts, like giving a list of things like, Kat, house, dog, ghost, things like that. And then the kids both draw for a minute or make a Lego build for 1 minute and then show, what they've done. So again, something cooperative, something
Cute.
that gives them a jump off point for their conversation. And the physical activity as well, we are thinking of all different things now, even trash can basketball, even hiding things all around the house. Like I hid 10 Legos around the house, so now you're going to go find them.
Oh, scavenger hunt.
Yeah,
Fun.
that's not labeled exercise, right? We don't need to tell kids like this is exercise, but actually it is getting them up and moving and using their muscles. So scavenger hunts, Easter egg hunt, is coming up, things like that. So again, it might even seem sneaky in a way, but finding ways
to make them move.
Right, finding ways just to make them move. I will even say, hiding quarters around the house,
Yeah, sure.
And then you can use that money to cash in.
We'll tear apart your house looking for the quarters.
Right,
But they'll be moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So things like that.
But great ideas, because these are things that you could, even if you live in a smaller place, say an apartment in a complex or something, you could still play trash can basketball outside as long as you're away from other people. You can still do things around the house that makes them walk from room to room. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think I would like to just talk for a minute about some other resources that are available to families. So the STAR study, STAAR, is still up and running. I know we talked about this on the last Facebook Live as well. And when I say up and running, we're doing phone screening still, because we know for children that have autism and anxiety, this is coming to the minds of a lot of parents during this period. So I just want to let parents know that there is still phone screening happening for this study that can then be enrolled once it's safe for everybody to come back. And again, that is a study comparing cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and medication treatment for children that have autism and anxiety. And I'm the therapy supervisor for that study, so had to mention it, right?
Yeah.
And then also we have materials online called Help is in Your Hands, which are new resources that are online on the UC Davis Mind website. And those are particularly useful for younger children, so toddler age, younger age. I think some of the things we talked about today are any age. Some of them are more for the elementary school age. So I just wanted to point that out, that resource is also there in addition to the things we talked about today.
Like for toddler and preschool?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and
Yes.
Help is in your hands, and it's free too.
Yes, absolutely.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Megan Tudor, for being with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.